It's a Tuesday night in a suburb outside Boston. A 17-year-old is sitting in his bedroom. Hoodie on. Energy drink half finished. 3 monitors glowing in the dark. His parents think he's doing homework. He's not. He's inside a computer system that controls electrical power for more than 2 million people. And nobody knows he's there. His name was never made public. In court documents, he's referred to only as a juvenile. But what he did in the winter of 2008 quietly terrified the people whose job it was to keep America's lights on. This is how a teenager found the hole in America's power grid, and what it revealed about the system supposed to protect it.
Peldaz.
The US power grid is not one thing. It's a patchwork. Hundreds of utility companies. Thousands of substations. Millions of miles of wire. All of it connected, managed, and increasingly monitored through computer systems linked to the internet. In the early 2000s, that connection was new. Utilities were modernizing fast. Remote access made things more efficient. Operators could monitor equipment from anywhere. Fix problems without sending a crew. It was progress. It was also a door left open. By 2008, security researchers had been warning about it for years. The warnings went mostly ignored. The attitude inside the industry was simple. Who would bother targeting a power company? The answer turned out to be a teenager in Massachusetts who was bored. His name never came out publicly. What we know comes from federal court records, a Department of Justice press release, and reporting from CNET and Wired. He had no formal training. No mentor. No crew. He taught himself. Starting around age 15, he spent hundreds of hours learning network security the same way most teenagers learn anything. Forums. Trial and error. Reading everything he could find. By 17, he was better at finding vulnerabilities than most people paid to look for them. In early 2008, he started probing utility company networks. Not to cause damage, not for money. He wanted to see how far he could get. The answer was further than anyone should have been able to go. He gained access to a control system managed by a New England utility company. The system handled switching functions, meaning it could affect how power was routed across parts of the regional grid. Turn the wrong thing off in the wrong sequence and you could trigger outages. Cascading ones. He didn't do that. He looked around. Took note of what he found. Then he kept going. Over the following weeks, he accessed systems belonging to multiple utility companies across the northeastern United States. He also accessed a Massachusetts water treatment facility. That detail is important. Water treatment facilities use automated systems to manage chemical levels. Chlorine. Fluoride. Get the balance wrong and the water becomes dangerous. The teenager had access to those controls. Again, he didn't touch them. But he could have. Federal investigators found him in the spring of 2008. How exactly they tracked him is not fully public. What is known is that the FBI's cyber division was involved, along with the Secret Service. Multiple agencies had been quietly investigating a series of intrusions into critical infrastructure networks. When they traced the intrusions back to a single source, they found a 17-year-old. Agents showed up at his home. They seized his computers, his hard drives, his notes. He was charged in federal court as a juvenile. He pleaded guilty. Because of his age, he avoided adult prison. He was sentenced to probation and community service. His name stayed sealed. The case barely made the news. Here is the part that should have made headlines. After the investigation, the utility companies involved quietly patched their systems and moved on. There was no public disclosure. No congressional hearing. No national conversation about what a teenager in a hoodie had just demonstrated. He hadn't broken into a company's customer database. He hadn't stolen credit card numbers. He had accessed systems that, if manipulated, could have blacked out cities. The people who knew about it didn't want to talk about it publicly. Partly because admitting the vulnerability could invite more attacks. Partly because the embarrassment was significant. A 17-year-old with no budget and no team had walked through the front door. What he found was not unique to those specific companies. In 2009, 1 year after his arrest, the Wall Street Journal reported that foreign hackers, believed to be linked to China and Russia, had already penetrated the US power grid. They had left behind software tools. Programs that could be activated later. Potentially to cause disruptions during a conflict. The grid had not been secured after the teenager's case. It hadn't been secured before it either.
This is not that long after 9/11.
Yes.
So we all thought.
In 2003, a software bug at a utility in Ohio had triggered a cascade failure. 55 million people lost power across 8 states and parts of Canada. It was the largest blackout in North American history. The cause wasn't a hacker. It was an unmonitored alarm system and a software glitch. The grid was fragile before anyone started trying to break it. The teenager eventually aged out of the juvenile system. What happened to him after that is not publicly known. His identity was never released. He didn't become a public figure. He didn't write a book. He didn't end up as a cybersecurity consultant with a TED Talk. He just disappeared back into regular life. In that way, his story is different from most hacker stories. There was no dramatic ending. No prison sentence that made the news. No company that hired him out of grudging respect. Just a quiet case, a sealed record, and a vulnerability that everyone hoped nobody else had noticed. In 2016, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed that a group of hackers had successfully infiltrated American energy companies. They had accessed operational systems. They had taken screenshots of control panels. In 2018, DHS went further. They announced that Russian hackers had gained access to control rooms of American power utilities. Not the edges of the network. The control rooms. The same kind of access a 17-year-old had found a decade earlier. There is a version of this story where the teenager's arrest becomes a turning point, where the government treats it as a wake-up call, where utilities are required to meet real security standards, where the gap between digital access and physical infrastructure gets taken seriously. That version didn't happen. What happened instead was a quiet patch. A sealed case. A collective decision to move on and hope for the best. The light stayed on. But the door was never really closed.